All right. Same theme. Same theme now. How cucked and gay Christianity is. We've got the New York Review, sometimes the New York Review of Books, sometimes the New York Review. Who can figure it out? They've got an article here, Dispirited Away. Ha ha ha. Like the anime film. Only dispirited, huh? Huh? All right. By Caroline Fraser. The Rise and Fall of an Evangelical Church, founded with progressive intentions and undone by dissension and bad faith. All right, well, what do you think bad faith is? What's bad faith as the New York Times would define it? Or not the New York Times, New York Review. Sorry, I mean it's all the same crap. I mentioned that last time, um but what do they think? What do they think that bad faith is? All right. So, this is a review of a book called Circle of Hope, A Reckoning with Love, Power, and Justice in an American Church. And this was written by Pulitzer Prize-winning reporter, blah, 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 blah. I know I say I don't edit these, but I did, before I got to the gay bishop, I had a big coughing fit that I'm going to have, that I muted my mic, but then I went and got a glass of water and everything. I'm going to have to edit all of that out. Very labor intensive. You try dragging and dropping your video file into an editor and then looking for the big blank space and then hitting cut and then going down the timeline and seeing where the empty space ends and hitting cut again and then hitting the delete key, okay? And then hitting render. Do you think that's easy? All right. Do you know how much I'm slaving over making this pod for you? All right. And by the way, okay, I saw a spike on YouTube where I suddenly got 8 views. And then there was a sudden spike where someone had gone to every one of my videos and hit dislike. Someone actually bothered to go to my channel and look at every video and hit dislike. Now, I'm hoping it was a Fed because he realized I told everyone how to spot him and he was really pissed off. Whatever Fed got assigned to this channel because I said frazzle drip or whatever, I'm hoping it was that Fed. But I kind of think it was maybe a Billy Carson guy. I was talking about Billy Carson last week, and Billy Carson with his like forbidden knowledge with the number 4. You remember him? And he got destroyed by that white boy Wesley Huff. It turns out he doesn't know about Egypt as much as he thought he did, and his book about the Emerald Tablets isn't real. And I think maybe it was a Hotep guy. Maybe it was. Now, if it was that, then I don't know. It's okay. I mean, you got to kind of choose the enemies you're going to have. Or you're going to have to just accept that you're going to make some enemies, right? I tried to be a friend to the Mormons. Okay? So I've had enemies who are Feds, enemies who are Hotep guys, but I have, maybe a little Mormon contingent. I could live with that. That's not that bad. That's not that bad. All right. Back to this. So basically, there was an inner city church that was quote unquote progressive, which I guess just means, by progressive, if there's a progressive accusation, I think it means they were like in the cities and like trying to minister to and like feed the poor or whatever gay bullshit they were doing. Oh, sorry, actual hardcore Christians who listen to this, by the way. But all right, I'm just going to jump in here because I'm going to jump to the middle here. This article kind of goes all over the place, and it talks about sort of the broader Christian movement in this time period, and this recent history of it. and all these other ones that aren't the focus of the book. But okay, so with astonishing rapidity, all of these evangelical stars waned. So they had just talked about all these other movements that did really, really well in like the 2010s. Lenz burned out by 2020 when the press gleefully discovered that the celebrity pastor, married with 3 children, had been carrying on torrid affairs with his nanny and a kimono designer. I forgot about that part. Had been carrying on torrid affairs with his nanny and a kimono designer while taking heroic amounts of Adderall. Now, here's the problem with Christians, is that there's really no room for the Adderall addicted horn dog, to openly succeed. So he's got to lie about who he is to get traction in the church. All that charisma, and it can't really go anywhere. It does go somewhere, but then it all blows up. All right. Not long after, the Australian pastor who founded the Pentecostal church that became Hillsong was revealed to have been a serial pedophile. Uh-oh. YouTube. So there's a bot right now on YouTube that listens to every episode, and it's like, okay, he said frazzle drip 7 times, and he's on his 2nd or 3rd pedophile. We're about 40 minutes in. I hope that's not what's happening, but this is just the news, YouTube. News and views, as they say. It's just the news I see and my views on it. These words come out. I'm not going to say grape, like when someone gets raped, you don't say grape. God, I hate that. Maybe that's a TikTok thing, but I've heard it. There's this true crime channel that's clearly meant for women that's really stupid, but I do kind of like it sometimes. And I believe I've heard her say grape. And it's just so much worse. It's like, can you imagine like surviving that, and then your story gets out there and you listen to it and somebody's saying you got graped? It's like the worst thing that's ever happened in your life, and you fought through it, and the guy's in prison now, and then somebody's like talking about it for money. And because they're trying to make money on talking about you getting raped, they're like, and she was brutally graped. Like, that's worse. That's so much worse. All right. Not long after, the Australian pastor who founded the Pentecostal church that became Hillsong was revealed to have been a serial pedophile. Ding! Every time I say that word, I should just have it ding, and we should just have a count. Just have a count at the bottom. It's like pedophile, COVID, frazzle drip, the N-word, and it's just every time I say one of them, it just dings. Okay. Joshua Harris denounced his purity culture book. Okay, that's its own thing, if that's who I think it is. Joshua Harris, he wrote like a book about how you shouldn't touch titties until you get married or something. No, it was about how you shouldn't date. You shouldn't do any dating or something like that. Forswore the movement it inspired and rejected Christianity. Mark Driscoll, accused of misogyny, plagiarism, and other irregularities, resigned from Mars Hill, where attendance crashed. So there was a podcast all about Mars Hill. There was actually a weird whole podcast series from like Christianity Today or something from like 2 or 3 years ago, all about Mars Hill. And I listened to it waiting for the part where Mark Driscoll, it was all about what a bad guy Mark Driscoll was. And I think the podcast was called like The Rise and Fall of Mars Hill or something. And I was like, what is this? I've never heard of this. So I listened to the whole podcast, and the whole time I'm waiting for Mark Driscoll to like fuck a kimono designer or something. It just never happens. Like, he was just kind of an asshole to his staff and kind of an arrogant moron. And but he got like this whole like big expose of like a whole podcast series on him. It was very, very gay. I mean, I wouldn't want to be part of his church, but it was just way too much what he got. It was completely unnecessary. He barely did anything wrong. Well, I don't know. He was just like a gay loser, and he sucked, and he was mean to people. But like, that's everybody. There's not a podcast series about like me or like half the people I know. Like, who cares? Like, Mark Driscoll was fine. All right, but let's go on. Here's what I really wanted to get to. It's the next paragraph about the Circle of Hope, which is what the book they're reviewing is about. Okay, those worshiping at the Whites' Circle of Hope soon learned that it had something in common with Hillsong's brand of evangelicalism. Not its rock star proclivities, but its bad faith. Again, what do they mean by bad faith? Let's see. Circle of Hope had been promoting itself as progressive, but its association with Brethren in Christ made it anything but. With some caveats, BIC opposes abortion. Oh! They're actually not Christian because they oppose abortion. Abortion is what Christianity is all about. It's about abortion, and it's about protecting transgender children. This female bishop is what a real Christian looks like. Upvote my post on Reddit! With some caveats, BIC opposes abortion. It rejects homosexuality. Oh! Hey, everybody. I really should have put a warning on that one. I'm not trying to upset people with this podcast. I don't want to rattle people. And an organization called Brethren in Christ. I'm sorry if you just turned off the podcast just then because you weren't expecting to hear something that shocking. That an organization that calls itself Brethren in Christ rejects homosexuality. I'm sorry that you had to hear something shocking and evil like that. But yep, it's true. Believe it or not, the Brethren in Christ reject homosexuality. And, okay, this next one, look, if you need to tune out this episode now, if it's getting too extreme, you just don't want to hear about evil and extremism in the world, you don't want to hear about these kind of, evil, fundamentalist Christian organizations, just turn off the pod right now. Don't listen to the next thing I'm going to say. I understand your mental health comes first, okay? And this is going to be really shocking, but okay. The Brethren in Christ, they reject homosexuality. This organization, it rejects homosexuality and discourages divorce. I'm so sorry, everybody. I'm reading the words, okay? God knows I don't agree with these guys either, okay? I know it's really bleak, it's really upsetting, but believe it or not, the Brethren in Christ oppose abortion, reject homosexuality, and discourage divorce. There's just, these Christian organizations in the world are just evil, okay? I'm sorry you had to hear that, but the Brethren in Christ discourage divorce. I mean, there's some real darkness in the world, folks. The Brethren in Christ are it, okay? They reject homosexuality and discourage divorce. Brethren in Christ does not allow women to preach. And, well, I think we all just saw a good reason that women should not be preaching. It does not allow women to preach. Oh, I'm sorry, I misread that. It does allow women to preach. Oh, see? They're not so bad. It does allow women to preach, but the biblically based belief that men should be leaders and women submissive followers died hard with Rod, who had a tendency to treat all his pastors with condescension, especially the women, sneering at their lack of seminary training. Well, okay. To be fair to Rod, who's the Circle of Hope guy that they're talking about, to be fair to him, if I had seminary training and I had to deal with pastors who didn't, I would condescend to them and be sneering about their lack of training. That's just, I mean, because what's the point? Why did you even go to seminary if you can't sneer at those who didn't? Really? Like, why even? You're not going to spend all that time at seminary and then someone gets just like anointed or whatever and they can do what you do. And it's like, okay, fine, that's the will of God, but I do get to sneer at them because they weren't trained. All right, so the reason I brought this article up, especially in context of that video, is just because you can see what they want Christianity to be. It's kind of like how I was talking about Ben Shapiro and what they want conservatism to be, where it's like this is what conservatism looks like, and they show you Ben Shapiro, and he just says the gayest, worst bullshit you've ever heard, and they're like, "Ooh, Ben Shapiro is a conservative, but he's smart." And then like they show you this bishop, and they're like, "This is what real Christianity is." And then they're like, there was a Christian movement that did all these good things, but then it fell apart because of the bad faith of opposing divorce and opposing homosexuality. It's like, well, what even is the religion then? Like, they don't have the balls to just make their own religion. You know, like in the French Revolution, there was like a Church of Universal Reason or whatever the fuck, and they threw out all the doctrine, and it was 100% just new shit that they made up, like the metric system and other shit. But no, it was like they did like a church, and they did like their own religion. It was like an explicitly like anti-Christian thing. These people don't have the balls to do that. They want to take Christianity and they want to take their retarded humanist beliefs, which are really anti-humanist because they have no understanding of human nature, and they want to frazzle drip Christianity. They want to wear its face while they do their own bullshit. It sucks.